Hey, what's happening, all you bad guys out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm back with the final issue of the miniseries by IDW, Sonic the Hedgehog Bad Guys. It's issue number 4, titled No Honor Among Thieves. A very classic saying that ultimately just boils down to the fact that if you're a no good Nick, yeah, you really shouldn't trust your fellow no good Nicks. You're all bad guys, so don't be surprised when a bad guy does a bad thing. And Dr. Starline is learning that the hard way, as Zavik, Ruff, Tumble, Mimic have all come into the knowledge that Starline was always planning to betray them. He put together this team in order to get information and data from Eggman's Eggnet, promising each of them a little something for their trouble after breaking them out of prison. But Zavik and Mimic had long since understood exactly what Starline was up to, and his inability to see the minute detail, well, his inability to see the bigger picture, his tendency to get caught up in the minute details caused him to miss the crucial fact that ultimately Zafik is a little too smart and a little too cunning to be deceived so easily. And so Starline has no choice but to use his newest invention, the Tricore, which gives him simultaneously, well, in tandem. He has to do one or the other. He can't use it all at once. The powers of flight, which he uses to help him get out of the middle of all these guys. The power of power, strength, which he uses to clash with Ruff. And the power of speed, which helps him elude Zavik's grasp. And so Starline makes a break for it. And while Zavik, Ruff, and Tumble pursue, with Zavik telling Mimic to stay in the computer room to guard it, since ultimately this is Starline's goal. He wants information from this hub. Ultimately, Mimic does something I wasn't expecting, and that's ultimately that he has the power of one of the power cores, which gives him flight capabilities. So, and he's also been erased from the Eggnet, meaning that Eggman has no way of tracking him at the moment. But Mimic also feels that ultimately Starline was actually kind of right. The rest of them are too dangerous to let out in the world. So he decides to alert Eggman and beat feet, hoping that ultimately Eggman will annihilate this base with Zavik, Ruff, Tumble, and Starline in it. And he sets out to play Whisper another visit. See how that goes down. And so, while Eggman is en route to a base that he was given information on that Sonic was at, he comes to find out this was misinformation and receives a video feed that Zavik is in one of his bases. And Eggman is having none of that. He feels that the Zeti are too dangerous because of their control over technology. So naturally, he wants to go after them and just tabula rasa, clean slate, just pave over the earth that Zavik stands on. He wants nothing left of the Zeti. And so, while Tumble, no, Ruff does end up coming into contact with Starline, ultimately he ends up getting clotheslined as well as poisoned by his barbed spurs, which I didn't realize are representative of the barbs that platypi actually have, because platypi, they are poisonous, in fact, because of the barbs that they have on their feet. And so if you touch it, you will get poisoned. And we're actually seeing this here as Starline does end up poisoning Ruff. But the Ruff is still able to actually cry out that Starline is here. And well, Zavik does end up, approaching where Starline was. Ultimately, Zavik can't find him, but he does take this time to try to suss out Starlight, to make him misread how he feels about himself. That ultimately, that Starlight is a failure. That he's not right to be Eggman's successor. He's sloppy, undisciplined, and he doesn't have anyone he believes in. That he's unable to move past his own pride. But then Zavik realizes, oh, you really are just like Eggman, which I think is the thing that actually cuts Starline the most. That while he does try to emulate Eggman, ultimately that means that he also has Eggman's shortcomings as well. And Starline actually does process this, going over everything that Zavik said about discarding those who he felt was no longer of use. And he thinks back to when Eggman did the very same to him, thinking, okay, yeah, I've gone about this the wrong way. And now, because of my inability to see the bigger picture, I have put ended up backing myself in a corner. So I have to cut my losses and see what kind of victory I can get out of this. So he tries to run back to the computer terminal. Although he does end up coming into contact with Tumble, but because of the speed core, he's able to make short work of Tumble. And he manages to make his way back to the computer room. He's cautious because he did overhear that Mimic would be staying behind, but Mimic's nowhere to be seen. He got out of there fast, a long time ago. And despite this, Starline is able to, get all the information needed, erase any logs, and hightail it out of there before Eggman has a chance to arrive. And while Zavik does come in contact with Rough and Tumble, he ultimately has had enough of the two of them, feeling that they weren't able to get the jump on Starline, despite the fact that Starline is too clever for them. It's impossible. And, feeling that ultimately this was, no good for them, that this whole team up was a loss, they decide to just get out of there, feeling that ultimately the only team they need is the two of them. And Zavik does arrive at the computer terminal, and realizes that Mimic, ran away, and he's just like, I can't count on any of these guys. I need to find information on the rest of the Deadly Six and bring them together, only for Eggman to pop up on the screen and saying that he's going to completely destroy this base. With Zavik questioning, it's just like, but you'll lose so much. But Eggman's just like, whatever, as long as I get to take you out, I can always rebuild. So Zavik takes control of the base and uses the defenses to fight back, with Mimic having stolen the truck they arrived in, being like, oh, well, with any luck, they'll wipe each other out. Rough and Tumble are just glad that they managed to get out of there unscathed. And Starline, he ponders everything that he's seeing, questioning everything that's going on. But Eggman is relentless as he completely annihilates the base, bringing it right down upon Zavik's head. But thanks to the power of the power core, Zavik is able to survive, with Eggman simply hoping that he's been done in, not wanting to get any closer because if he hasn't been, his machinery will be taken control of by Zavik. But, Zavik survived, but in the process, the power core he received was destroyed. And while he does manage to just pop out of the thing like a daisy, which was a cool scene, he is very injured and uses a nearby egg pond in order to help him get to safety. I really did enjoy Zavik's character in this series. It was fantastic. Just, man, I really hope that if I see more of Zavik in the games, he's written a lot like this. It was fantastic. But then Eggman receives word that ultimately they never found Zavok's body, meaning that Zavok is still out there. But Eggman feels that he has bigger fish to fry, because ultimately the misdirect, everything that went on with the systems, all that, it's just like that's not Zavok's style. There's someone else behind the scenes doing all this. And I find it interesting that he didn't think of Starline immediately. Like, dude, you worked with this guy for so long. Did he just not see Starline as a threat? Is that ultimately what it boils down to? Is ultimately that going to be a sore spot for Starline, that he feels that Eggman only treated him as a lackey and not an equal, which he definitely did. I'm interested to see how their relationship will grow in future issues. But Starline is able to take full control of a base, bring in all of his equipment from his own other minor lab, and he completely takes over, deciding that he will be Eggman's equal, finally ready to embrace his role as a true villainous scientist. Starline Rising. Although his logo looks super weak. I'm sorry, it's basically like, oh, it's a 5-star crest strip. Man, that toothpaste must be amazing. It got 5 stars. Fantastic. Like seriously, dude, work on that logo. It's really lame. But what's not lame is this series. It was fun, it was interesting. The conclusion wasn't the best because ultimately it feels like that conclusion ended up doing more for Zavok's character than Starline's. Starline doesn't come out of this feeling like a massively cool dude. He kind of feels like a poser for the most part. But Zavok feels tough, a survivalist, indomitable, always pushing forward. And I'm interested in seeing how he goes about regaining his deadly six. And where are they? What are they doing? How will they reassemble? It's an unfortunate situation where ultimately the star of this series was outshone by another. Those dang game characters always taking the spotlight away from the comic book characters. Such a tragedy. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about Starline? What did you think about Zavok? How was your feelings towards Eggman's actions in this, being so ruthless to just want to annihilate all of them in fiery death? It's very intense and very much reminiscent of Ian's old writing back in the Archie comics. I miss those comics. I really do. But again, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another Sonic the Hedgehog series review. Hopefully there'll be another mini-series sometime next year. And until then, I will see you later. Bye-bye.